Perfect. I think we are good to go.
Am I not
Over to you,
visible?
Ravi, sir.
I started the screen, but why it's not showing up? So just let me turn on my camera properly.
Sure.
So am I? Can I be seen, or I'm not able to? I'm not visible.
We are not seeing you, sir.
Yeah.
Not seen. Okay, let me.
I think this is the perfect start to the today's topic: why AI supply chain projects fail.
Okay, I think I'll have to do without camera. I'm not sure what is the problem.
Or we can probably wait for a minute. You can exit and rejoin again.
Okay, I'll exit and rejoin again.
Gopalan sir, I see there's a wide smile on the face. So these are the kind of issues that we usually face on the
Unanticipated. Yeah.
digital training or the digital video front.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
You're visible now, sir.
Okay, now visible. Okay, so I don't know what the problem was.
Ah.
Uh, okay, so let's start today's session. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third episode of SCM Talk Show. In the season 3, we had season 1 and 2, and this is the season third season. In third season, this is the third episode. The last one was on relevance of S&OP process post-pandemic. And this episode is on why AI supply chain projects fail. So it's very, very interesting topic. I think AI is a very hot topic. Everyone wants to implement AI. But we need to be also very cautious why these projects fail and what it takes to make it successful. So topics have been chosen from your responses to the survey that we sent and availability of good speakers. A lot of people have shown interest in digital supply chain management, so this is part of that. This session again will be recorded and made available like every time, and it will be made available free on KnoWerX mobile app and even YouTube channel, our YouTube channel. Similar to earlier practice, we are putting everyone on listen only mode. Like all previous times, please submit your questions in the chat box. We will take few most frequently asked questions at the end of this session, if time permits, depending on the time permitting. So let me start the session. It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Gopalan. So Mr. Gopalan is an AI leader with an experience of around 20 years in IT industry. He has worked for various global firms like Procter & Gamble, Philips, Medical Systems, Fuji Photo Films, and in Netherlands as an ERP consultant. He is one of the leaders in the supply chain and advanced analytics competency in Intel Corporation. So also a little bit more about him. He has done various roles in Intel and in the IT industry from ERP to AI. His core leadership principles are based on humility, curiosity, and empathy. He holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and a master's, that is the MBA from IIM Bangalore. He also holds an advanced computer security and machine learning certification from Stanford. and MicroMasters in supply chain management from MIT. So very impressive, very impressive, names and the bio. We're talking about IIM Bangalore and Stanford and MIT. Currently, he leads the AI Center of Excellence in Intel India. In his role, he is responsible for developing the AI competency in the organization by developing in-house AI talent, engaging with business unit, and identifying opportunities by which AI can accelerate product development, validation, and bring efficiency in supply chain, HR, and finance functions of the organization. So Gopalan is also a heartfulness meditation trainer. He teaches heartfulness-based relaxation and meditation techniques for interested seekers. So I think you can connect with him if you are interested in meditation. So welcome, Mr. Gopalan.
Thank you, sir.
So thanks, Gopalan, for accepting our invitation to share your practice-oriented insight with our listeners. So I'll start with the first question. Can you now please explain to our naïve listeners briefly, when you talk about AI projects in supply chain management, what those could be? What are the examples of some AI projects in supply chain management?
Sure. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this SCM talk show. Incidentally, about 20 years ago, I have attended your SCM lecture when I was working in Atos Origin in Mumbai. So probably the seeds of SCM were sown in me in those days itself, I think. So never thought that I would do a talk show with you. Really honored to be, interacting with you through this talk show. Coming back to the question on examples of AI projects in supply chain, right? So broadly, when we look at supply chain, the three areas where I see opportunities are first is in pricing, second in demand planning, and then third in inventory management and in control. To go a little more specific, so if you look at some of the classical paradigms in which AI projects are done, one is called as a prediction paradigm, right? Can I predict something? So we all know in inventory, we really want to predict, right? What will be the lead time? What will be the, will I have a stock out or will I have an excess stock? Or, how much will be my stock in, the next 2 months? So just look at inventory alone, though there are classical inventory models, well-proven ones, they are getting fine-tuned and they are getting improved because now we can accommodate more variables related to environment, uncertainties like the COVID disruption that we are seeing in the supply chain, right? Can we factor this into supply chain? Can we factor this into my model and then, predict my, inventory or days of inventory or any prediction that I'm doing with classical models? Can I now do a fine-tuned approach by bringing external factors and factors I have not considered, and then applying AI techniques? This is one broad area, right? So prediction paradigm, whether it is predicting price, demand, or inventory, is one great opportunity for applying AI in supply chain. The second is, based on my experience, I'm sharing some of the opportunities that we saw, right? The second is we were fundamentally looking at, how really we can do spends analysis, by categories. So, so you have, you buy millions of items throughout the year from different vendors, and in which categories I'm spending, is there a way to intelligently allocate my parts to that spends category? Because manually going through each one of them will be fairly a tough one. But given a set of characteristics, can I classify them intelligently into different categories is one opportunity we saw. The other area we saw was our buyers, for example, if they have to make a choice between different vendors for buying a commodity, can we come up with certain set of guidelines and characterize our vendors and then provide a recommendation. For example, if this is the part my buyer is going to buy, can I then give a set of recommended vendors for that specific part that my buyer is planning to buy? So recommender algorithms can be, thought about, wherever where there is a multitude of, choices, and I have to pick few amongst them. Then, recommender engines become very powerful, even in supply chain. It need not just be, in YouTube recommendation alone, or in Amazon, homepage recommendation alone. Supply chain also, you can apply this. And then other opportunity we saw was, if I have to consolidate my suppliers, yet maintaining my coverage of procurement, I want to, procure the same set of parts that I'm going to buy throughout the year, but can I consolidate? So which set of supplier combinations will give me the maximum coverage and minimum suppliers, right? So these kind of opportunities, we saw that AI techniques became very handy for us to solve some of these problems. Again, I'm not fully listing all the opportunities, but I'm giving you a glimpse of what all possibilities are there. In general, I'll give you a simple, so to say, a sutra, right? Is whenever you have an opportunity to understand the state of a system using logs or by some sort of reports, if you can understand the state of a system, and uh, and in some way there is a stimulus that is acting on the system, and then that is resulting, that is helping you to understand the state of the system, and you want to respond to that system, right? You now know the state and you want to respond to that. This is I call it as AI thinking, right? Once, if you look at with this mindset, what is happening, what is the stimulus to the system, and then can I understand the state of the system, and do I need to respond? Do I need to respond in real time, or do I need to respond based on the data in future? For example, do I need to predict something? So moment you have this kind of scenarios, straight away you can look at whether AI techniques can be. Sir, you're on mute.
Thank you. So thank you so much, Gopalan. It was very, very informative. I think I myself am getting ideas, where all supply chain can be applied, AI can be applied in supply chain management. I think there are many more opportunities than I thought there are. Now, one question I have, when we say AI project, so what kind of a project it is? How it is different than other IT project? Is it sort of a software development project, or it's sort of an ERP, like a package deployment project? What it is?
Yeah, absolutely. When I started this Center of Excellence about 4.5 years ago, I went with this mindset that these are software development projects. I failed miserably, and then I learned in a very bitter way, right? So certainly is a very important question that all of us need to understand. Certainly AI projects are very, very different from IT projects. How are they different? IT, if you look at it, IT projects as a discipline or software development as a discipline, it is 4 to 5 decades old. I call this as a granddaddy, right, in terms of maturity. Whereas when you look at an AI kind of a project, they are toddlers. This discipline is just emerging, and we haven't matured still. No one still knows what is an AI project life cycle itself. Whereas in IT, you have various development life cycles. People talk about waterfall, iterative, and then agile. Now the buzzword is agile, right? Everything is agile. So IT, if you look at it, we have tried different models, and then we have a good grip of, how to execute projects and what methodologies can be applied to do it. Today, AI projects are severely struggling. That is, in fact, one of the prime reason why projects fail, because there is a lack of disciplined approach to executing projects. And we do not know what the methodology is. In fact, with the NASCOM, I partnered and created a AI body of knowledge, right? AI playbook, actually. It is an AI playbook that we have created. It is out in the web. If any one of the participants are interested, they can take a look at it. So we exactly created this because this is the crying need of the industry today. So that's one aspect, right? So AI, if you look at it, AI projects, if you look at it, they are highly experimental in nature. Whereas in IT projects, you typically have a baseline set of requirements, and then you go ahead and develop. There could be some changes coming as you develop. So that's where agile kind of methodologies are very handy. You immediately accommodate and then see what is the impact if you accommodate that change, or do you leave it to the next version of the release? Do you do it later? Those kind of decisions are fairly, very mature and very well thought out, right? Whereas if you look at the AI projects, the very nature of which algorithm to choose, how to do experiments, and then to figure out what is the right approach itself is a highly, fairly nebulous area, highly ambiguous area. So let me give you an example, right? Take Google search, for example. The search that we saw in 2003 versus what we are seeing today in 2022 has enormously improved and enormously changed. So if you look at it, what has happened? Search as a paradigm has evolved, has really learned from the users. The way people are searching, Google has started learning from that and then improved the search. So if you look at it in a nutshell, if you look at an AI program, it's nothing. Search is a mega AI program, right? Let us look at it that way. It has evolved continuously. So I typically call, AI programs or AI algorithms as children. They keep learning continuously. Whereas IT applications, you put it in production, fairly they are stable, because the conditions for which in which you are operating, the context in which you are operating, and the expected results. These are very well laid out and pretty stable. Whereas in the case of AI algorithms, the algorithm itself learns from data, and so it continues to evolve. And there is going to be a little bit of uncertainty till the evolution happens. So there is nothing like a classical production that happens in AI application. You put it in production and then wait for it to evolve also. So there is a bit of, that is one important difference. It's not a small difference, it's a huge difference. So this is something the stakeholders have to be educated, development teams have to be educated, project managers have to be educated. Else, you are going to be running into issues. This is one of the very, very big difference that I as a AI practitioner that I am seeing. Right? So you may ask, then what is the discipline that you will put in practice? So the closest thing that we found is a methodology called cross-industry standard processes for data mining. Data mining as a discipline has been existing, since the day you started teaching SEM to us. So, data mining is the closest cousin that we can look at. Though, there is a higher level of experimentation that happens in AI projects, but the CRISP-DM methodology is what, we follow as AI practitioners, because that is coming somewhat in handy for us to bring some sort of discipline into running an AI project. So I'll pause here. Just to wanted to give you a broad difference between how the nature of AI projects versus nature of IT projects.
So thank you so much, and I got a little bit more curious with your explanation because I thought that AI project will be similar to an IT project, but it looks like that it does not. It may not have a solid structure. But again, when we call a project, we need to have some sort of a structure. We need to have some sort of work breakdown structure. So not getting into details, but a broad sense. Do you have some 4 or 5 or WBS elements which you can speak about?
Yeah. Absolutely. So again, I'm just going to fundamentally by adopting CRISP-DM, we came up with this work breakdown structure for AI projects, right? The first and the foremost phase that you may call, first of all, AI projects are highly iterative, but I'll start with the distinct phases and then talk about the iterative nature of the AI projects. You can broadly consider business understanding as the first element or the key element, essentially understanding the domain, interacting with the business analyst or the particular domain to really understand what is the specific business opportunity or the problem that they are trying to solve. So that phase, I call it as business understanding. The second is data understanding. What are the, having understood the problem, now what are the data elements that constitute that are really needed to really formulate your problem? I call this phase as data understanding or data diligence. The due diligence that you need to do to understand the data, not from an availability point of view, but also from a quality point of view. Because everybody says I have data. We have a ton of data. I have get this. I am getting this sensor data. I'm getting this data from real-time tracking. All this kind of data people say. But one important thing I want to highlight is when people talk about data, there is a subtle difference that we need to understand, which is there something called as labeled data? Very, very important, right? I'll talk about it, later, maybe in our discussion. So those who are already, having some idea of AI or machine learning, probably can get what I'm saying when I say label data. In AI, there is a paradigm called supervised learning, in which you need to have label data to train your algorithm, and eventually you expect the algorithm to predict. So most of the time, as a practitioner, what I see is lack of label data. So this is the second phase. First we spoke about business understanding. The second phase, which I'm talking about, is the data understanding, right? Where availability, quality of data, and availability of label data, all this we typically have to evaluate to really see whether your business case is worth pursuing and to be done as an AI project, right? So this is the second WBS element I would consider. The third phase I would consider is use case formulation. Not all problems need to be solved using AI technique. Sometimes when I engage with my business, this question may sound very counterintuitive to them, where I ask, do you really need to solve this problem using AI technique? Because I have a hammer, I should not be looking for nails. So I keep telling them that if there is a simpler technique, please go ahead and then use that. If a simple automation can help you solve this problem, go ahead and do it. If there is a simple business process change that you can do to solve this problem, go ahead and do it. Don't ever, do AI for the sake of AI. Because it is one of the shining toy that everybody is using, I also want to use. No, it comes with a lot of complexity and challenges. So, because as the system complexity increases, the need to understand, the need to maintain, the need to sustain, everything increases proportionally. So typically, these are first few questions I ask as part of my business understanding is, I really, make it really tough for them to convince me that it is an AI project. This is where I put maximum effort to ensure that I don't do some fancy AI project just because, I can apply AI, right? Will it bring a dramatically higher value than my traditional approach? Is there a real need to apply? For example, really, if if vanilla forecasting is not helping, ARIMA techniques are not helping, or a windholder, a halt-winter technique is not helping, then I would look at maybe a Facebook profit kind of method, right? Which is much more sophisticated, but a classical machine learning approach. So these are a few questions I ask in the business understanding and the data understanding phase. Then we spoke about the use case formulation, right? Which is the third WBS element I consider. Having done this due diligence on business and data understanding, you are very sure you are really working on a qualified AI problem, right? You're not working on a problem that can be solved using alternate techniques. Then the next phase, what we do is experimentation, because if you look at it today, we are offered a zoo of algorithms. There are tons and tons of algorithms, and researchers are inventing algorithm in thousands every day. So, there is for a data scientist, I literally, there is a zoo of algorithms that they can pick and choose. So there is an intense experimentation phase that happens. This is the fourth phase, business understanding, data understanding, use case formulation, and experimentation, right? So typically, this is where many of the data scientists think their job is. I'll come to that later. That is not so. This is not the only phase in which data scientist gets it. An industrialist or an industry practitioner like me expects a data scientist to be in all the phases, whereas data scientists expect they will do only modeling. So I want to demystify that also later as we move into our discussion. So experimentation phases, you have multitude of algorithms. You have certain expectations from the business. You figure out, which algorithm or which combinations of algorithms is going to fulfill the business requirements. That phase, I call it as the experimentation phase. Then the fifth phase is the pilot phase, where you fundamentally then, once you are ready, business is okay with the accuracy that your algorithm is producing, or the set of recommendations it is giving, or the way it is classifying the parts into spends categories. I'm kind of correlating to my previous examples. Business is happy with that. Then you pilot it. If you are working for a global organization, try to see where is a controlled environment, right? I call it as the New Zealand of your project, where, whatever you do will not be known to the world. So try to isolate, try to find a business group or a site or a country or a geo where you do it for a specific target audience, and then see the impact. Do they really trust the algorithm output? Do they really accept the output that your algorithm is giving? Are they, this is, I call it as a pilot phase, right? Then you do your cloud burst. Cloud burst is, once you're happy with your outcome in New Zealand, then you globally deploy it. Or you deploy it in APAC, then go to EMEA, then go like any other ERP implementations that we do, right? So that's how I would, organize my AI project into these broad, 5 or 6 stages or WBS elements.
Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So now, can you please explain what is required to make it successful? I understand
Absolutely,
the
sir.
structure is very different than normal IT projects, and we know how to make an IT or an ERP project successful. Now, I think AI is a different ball game.
Absolutely.
So, how to make it successful, and especially in supply chain management AI projects?
Yeah, sure, sir. First and foremost is, typically, ideas can come from anywhere in the organization. So, what I have seen in the SCM space is it is probably applicable to finance, marketing, any of the verticals. What happens is the analyst or the engineer comes with the idea. Then the one important thing they miss is the sponsorship. Will my top boss agree for this project? Is it aligning with the priority of my organization? Does it align with the KPIs of my organization? Very, very important, right? Otherwise, you are not going to get support from your management. Extremely important is to check whether it aligns with the KPIs of your organization. Will it bring 10x improvement to the KPIs that your boss is managing, right? Extremely important. Otherwise, this is a recipe for disaster. Uh, there will not be organizational support. There will not be business sponsorship. So extremely important. The second is giving visibility. See, for example, a specific group within a department is alone doing it. Try to give visibility to the broader department, because more ideas would come to enrich this problem. So a lot of time, we are very, what to say, some groups I have seen, right? Even in the industry, I'm not talking anything specific here, is we become very protective. Oh, this idea somebody may copy and then do it faster than me. Actually, it is counterintuitive. When you open it, what happens is you fundamentally open source your problem, right? More ideas actually come in, and then more contributors come and enrich your problem. They help you to see your problem in a various different perspectives. Of course, what you want to take it to your scope is your choice, but you at least get a very rich set of inputs. Your choice is yours. You can filter which one to take, which one to leave. But giving visibility at an organizational level gives you additional perspectives, better ways to look at your problem, and even to enlist support, right? Tomorrow, you have piloted, but you want to scale it globally. You are going to get support from your organization because you have given visibility, you have included them in your problem formulation. Then what happens is scaling also becomes much easier. So giving visibility to the proposal or the problem is the second important thing that will make you successful. Third is a clear ROI, right? Return on investment calculation. It could be a simple NPV based approach. For next 4 years, what is the benefit the BU will get? Remember, this is when your top boss will take the checkbook and sign. Only when you project a solid NPV, that's when you're going to convince your senior management. So extremely important to come up with either an ROI or a tangible business benefit, right? How my inventory situation will improve, or how I will reduce my excess inventory in these many plants over next 6 months or 1 year. So come with some very tangible metrics which are tied to the KPIs of your organization. And then what happens is you are able to align your senior leadership with you, a broader organization support you get, and then you are able to move in a much more in a much more uh, less hurdles you will encounter as you work in the AI project. The other important thing is during experimentation phase. Remember, I was talking to you about the WBS in our previous topic. We were talking about the WBS elements of AI project. One of the thing I was talking to you was about the various stages. So in fact, in our AI Center of Excellence, what we have come up with is a go, no go criteria at each stage. So I, in fact, call this as an AI funnel, When you bring, you may bring about 10 or 20 ideas, and then they get progressively filtered uh, in various stages, ideas phase out, after business understanding, after data understanding, after use case formulation. At various stages, they get filtered out. Finally, very few of them see the light of the day, right? That's why I call this as a funnel, like a typical sales funnel. We drew parallels from a sales funnel, and then we created this AI funnel, with all these WBS elements, right? So having a clear go, no go criteria helps you to emotionally get detached from a problem. For example, experimentation says that I did a bunch of experiments and I am coming up with a response saying that, hey, you need to collect more data to actually make your algorithm more robust. Or, for example, given the quality of data, you're not, AI, even if you use sophisticated AI technique, you're not going to solve the problem. It is not going to meet your expectations. Are you now emotionally still getting attached and trying to pursue the problem? Or do you want to, once a no-go comes out as an answer, are you okay to drop the project and move on? What I see is a lot of our engineers and analysts are emotionally attached to the project. No, somehow we will make it work. I'll try to get more data. So emotionally, do not get attached to the project, right? This is very, very important because as you go through the stage gate reviews of your WBS elements in the AI funnel, you need to be, dispassionate, probably that is the right term, to say that, okay, I'll pause the project. It's no more, I'll collect more data and come back. I will, I will improve the quality of my data and come back. Or those could be the recommendation that will be coming from an AI team like mine. And it is better to go ahead, objectively accept that response and move on instead of pushing it further and further and then draining more and more money, organization effort, and calories in the project. These are few things I think will make the projects successful. Of course, I didn't touch the biggest part, the people skills and competency. If you have time, I can talk about.
Okay, so excellent. Actually, now apart from all these points that you said about how to make it successful, what can make it fail? I mean, whatever you elaborated. Other
Yeah,
than
you have to
that,
negate it.
yeah.
But I'll talk about some of the critical reasons why I have seen projects failing is lack of label data, and then lack of See, one important thing I told you, right? AI projects. I'll give you one more analogy. AI projects are like a ballet dance. The business and the domain expert and the AI expert have to continuously engage and work together. It is not like, hey, I have given the requirements, I will come and see you after 3 months. It's not going to work that way. Because of the iterative nature and the experimental nature of AI projects, you need to be continuously partnering with, the business and the domain, data scientists have to continuously partner and then take the project through the whole life cycle. Else, it's not going to work. So these are few things, which I didn't cover as success metrics, right? I wanted to highlight. The other important thing is this is a message to the aspiring data scientists and the professionals who are thinking about embarking on AI projects, right? The most important thing from a people perspective is today what I see in the market, the so-called data scientists, right, are only keen to do only algorithm development. That also what they mean by that is there is a Python library available. I will apply that, or an R library available in either a scikit-learn library or a R library. I will call that. I have a set of data. I will apply it, and then I'll get some results, and then I will make inference, and then work with the business and complete the project. It doesn't end there. This is the expectation with which today data scientists are coming into jobs. And this is the expectation with which many are moving into the data scientist profession also. One thing I want to demystify is industry is not looking for, I call them as modelers. Probably it's a new term. They are not data scientists. They are just modelers. They know how to apply an existing Python library and then solve a problem, right? That today a college kid also can do. So you're not going to be valued in the market if you're just thinking about modeling. We are, as a practitioner, we are looking for people who can work with the business and understand the business challenges, understand the complexities that are involved in running a business. Can they go below the skin of a business analyst, below the skin of a buyer, below the skin of a commodity manager, and then understand what really are the challenges these guys are facing? What are the problems that that they are going through? What are the challenges they are going through? And can I probe them further and really figure out the root cause of their problems, right? Today I don't see such level of communication, requirement gathering skills, and engagement skills in the market. This is a biggest issue which is causing AI projects to fail, right? Because every company, every organization hires the so-called modelers who are called as data scientists, right? They call them as data scientists. Eventually, they are actually modelers who are very, very weak in learning a domain. If I throw them in warehouse management, if I throw them in logistics or in demand planning, will they be able to pick up that domain or to talk intelligently to my demand planner or a factory planner? Intelligently, can they have a conversation? Do they have the aptitude to learn, invest themselves in supply chain domain a little bit, if not deeply? I don't want them to go as deep as a factory planner or an inventory analyst in my factory, right? But can they at least understand the terminologies, and then have a meaningful conversation with them? Do they have the ability to probe further, go below what they say, what explicitly is being said by my customer? Can they go below that and then understand or bring out the root cause of the issue, bring out the next level of information, right? That gap is, that skill is woefully lacking in the market. Right? This is one of the prime reasons why many of the AI projects we fail, because whatever the customer says as a problem, we accept it meekly and merely, and then we go ahead and solve, and it's not really solving the ultimate problem that they are facing. So just wanted to double click and highlight on that. The other issue is the process discipline, right? Which I said, because today there is no AI project lifecycle, many organizations are struggling. So crisp DM is the closest cousin of an AI, so-called AI project lifecycle, right? So at least adapt that. Have a clear go, no go criteria at the various WBS elements that I spoke about, right, in the AI fund. So that way, you know when to pause your project and when to pursue your project. These are few things that I, as a practitioner, figured out, by better experience, by failing and struggling and finally figuring out, just sharing it with you. These are a few things that, really cause AI projects to fail.
Thank you so much. So I see one similarity here, even in normal IT projects, we expected IT professionals to have business knowledge,
Yeah, yeah.
So now, since, we are talking to a lot of supply chain professionals here, the listeners are supply chain professional, would you say it would be a good idea for supply chain professionals to get trained as data scientists? Would that really make a valuable proposition, or would you say data scientists should come and understand functionality, which is more
Yeah.
workable, practically more workable?
Yeah. So today, now there is a concept of T skills, right? I have a depth in a particular domain, and then I have breadth in few adjacencies. So we call it as the T-shaped competency building in individuals, right? So I may be a supply chain expert, but what are my adjacencies that I need to pick up? Maybe some bit of finance skills, some bit of AI skills, some bit of uh, say some of the emerging cloud technology skills. So these are important adjacencies today an expert, an SCM expert need to know, because the projects that we are going to deal with are going to be in cloud. They are going to embrace some form of AI. So it is better to know these adjacencies. So they need not be a data scientist, but they need to know some bit of data science. So hope you got the
Yeah,
subtle
thank you so much.
difference.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. In fact, when we launched the CSCP certification, we had a lot of IT into that, because the future of supply chain is going to use a lot of IT,
Yes,
and
sir.
but many people in fact complain that we are supply chain professional, not IT professional. Why you are putting so much into the subject? So we sort of reduced that a little, but now people appreciate why we have IT into supply chain, and I think in future to come, people will also understand why we have AI and cloud and so on and so forth in our certification programs. So
Extremely important. Yeah.
extremely important. I think
If
it's
not, see, they don't need to have the depth like a data scientist need to have. They don't
yeah,
need to be a
yeah,
Python programmer, right?
yeah.
But they need to know which paradigms they need to apply for a particular problem. See, I am telling you, at the most, when you look at classical machine learning, you're dealing with 6 or 8 core algorithms, with which 80 to 90% of the problems can be solved. Do I, do at least those basics they need to, those 6 or 8 algorithms, it will probably take about, say, uh, 8 to 12 hours of investment, to learn this. And there are today, if you look at it, sir, there are tools which doesn't need even programming skills. You can develop a simple AI application with just visual programming. I call it as visual programming, right? Where all you need to know is your business understanding, and then a right set of data that is needed to solve your problem. And the rest, even a business analyst today can develop a very simple AI application. May not be as sophisticated as what a data scientist would develop, but they can get a very good understanding of how to make trade-offs, real time, how to make trade-offs, which data element, if I have to acquire, how costly it will be. Should I do it? And what is the accuracy improvement I'll get in my algorithm if I bring this data element, or should I drop it? Those kind of trade-off decisions only a domain expert can make, because data scientists will keep asking for data. So a business analyst is the one who needs to make those trade-offs. So I really feel that, SCM experts, in fact, when I did my micro masters from MIT, there was a very specific course on supply chain analytics, and in fact, there were a couple of sub modules which covered the AI portions. So, that's where my interest in AI also got kindled, right? And then eventually I took off on a different direction. But the seeds were sown by MIT, right, in those days, in giving me a glimpse of supply chain analytics and how AI can add value in supply chain.
Excellent input. I would say most valuable input for all of us who are listening today. Now, one thing I would like to know, apart from, let's say, learning a little bit of an AI and getting exposure to these new technologies, in what way supply chain professionals can contribute to make a AI project successful? In what way they can contribute?
Sorry, I got muted accidentally. Uh, Supply chain experts, they can contribute by first and foremost is picking up some basic AI skills. That is very, very important because they are the ones who understand the domain very well. You know, not an AI expert or a data scientist, right? These are the guys who can understand. So if they, that is the core part of the cake. If they do the topping with some basic AI skills, what happens is they can develop this AI mindset, think how to, how to view the problem with the AI mindset. It's extremely important. Remember at the beginning, I was talking to you about a stimulus to a system and then figuring out the state of the system and then trying to see how to respond to that state of the system. This is one of the paradigms of AI mindset. So whenever we look at a problem, typically we look at this way. What is the stimulus? What is the state of the system? How do I respond to the system? So once you start formulating your problems, in supply chain world, in this mindset, and if you invest some bit of time in acquiring basic AI skills, actually you'll be able to identify more and more problems in supply chain space. I was talking to you in the beginning of our discussion about pricing, inventory management and control, demand planning. These are the three broad areas in which I see AI as an opportunity, right? But as an SCM expert, you may find much more opportunities in your backyard. So once you acquire the skills, more than the skills, the mindset to view the world, a perspective to view the world in a different way. Like how IT helped us to look at how I can automate things. Same way, AI is about automating automation. So, how can you now, with the AI mindset, how do you see your business? How do you see that you can bring more value with AI? So that's how they can actually contribute. All they need to do is pick up some basic AI skills and then develop this AI mindset. Then the new vistas will open up for them.
So I'm sure sometime they'll ask for which course is the best. But yeah, as
Absolutely.
you mentioned, the Macro Master from MIT. So yeah, so is that course targeted towards AI or specifically, or it's a
No, sir. Yeah. Only one module, supply chain analytics. It offers, I think, 4 courses: supply chain fundamentals, and then few more. Supply chain analytics alone touches a little bit about descriptive analytics, optimization, like linear programming and mixed integer linear programming, and some bit of simulation and prediction algorithms. So other than that, the course is overall a supply chain course.
supply chain course? Okay. So now one question I have is, I'm sure the listeners who are here, they belong to various organizations, and many organizations have not embarked on AI, journey. So, what would you suggest, that they should do? Is that really beneficial? How beneficial it is, and how to go about? What should they do? So, if you have some suggestions for them.
Sure. Uh, as I told you, what makes a project successful, I can pull some of the suggestions from that, right? So don't, go after the shiny toy, right? Because AI, everyone is doing AI. Don't just go because everyone is doing it, right? Is there a clear value proposition for your organization? That is ascertained only by doing a diligent NPV or an ROI calculation, right? Clearly do that and then see the benefit, whether there is a tangible benefit. If not, still it's okay. And you still, sense an opportunity. I would say start small, try to tackle some very, very small, naive and easy problems to tackle, which costs you very little, less investment. Start small and then see whether you are seeing the impact, are you seeing some tangible impact in your organization? Then scale it up. Right? So that's what I would say. Uh, That is the best approach. So because no one is going to put dollars or make investments on some fancy ideas, right? Everyone is looking for some tangible outcomes. So the best way would be to experiment in a small way and then see whether you are able to make some tangible impact to your business. Then what happens? And is it, other important thing is, does it align with your organization's KPIs? Extremely important. Otherwise, no one will even look at these problems, right? If whatever fancy presentations you make, no one is even going to look at it. If this is not going to ring a bell with your top management, oh, this problem can help me, reduce my, on-hand inventory by X million dollars. If you can make that bold claim, then people will turn back, turn and then look at you and then say, okay, let me invest some money in this. So I would always say, start small, work on tangible problems, and then show some demonstrable proofs quickly. Try to quickly generate some results, and then see whether it resonates with your top management. Then you are embarking on a virtuous cycle, right? So you're producing results, investments are coming, you are making bigger bets, and then trying out, and then generating bigger outcomes. So that's how you can embark on a virtuous cycle of AI.
Thank you so much. I'll get on to other segment of the talk show about how you got into supply chain, how the journey started. Was it planned or accidental, or how it happened?
Actually, I'm a mechanical engineer by specialization. So my first job, I was actually a shop floor engineer. So, I have done goods receipt, I have done invoicing, I have, gone and done physical inspection in the stores. So, and I have worked in 3 shifts as a shop floor engineer, right? So, many, people may not agree. I somehow feel mechanical engineering is the mother of all engineering disciplines, right? So that's how my
Thanks
journey
for
is.
saying that. I'm too a mechanical engineer.
Yeah, I know. So, today, remember I spoke to you about AI mindset. Also, one important thing is the engineer's mindset you get once you become a mechanical engineer, right? Somehow, for me, whether the discipline is now electronics or computer science, it doesn't matter. I'm able to quickly, because I have that engineering mindset. Same way, having lived in the shop floor, I have seen supply chain right in front of my eyes. I have seen how bottlenecks have messed up the shop floor output, right? How just one machine whose low output has caused the entire chain, entire system output to crash, so that's when I learned theory of constraints. I saw that right in front of my eyes, right? Though I read the book, I was reading that book in my room, and then I came to shop floor and then saw, oops, this is theory of constraints, where the stock is piling up in front of one machine and the machine is waiting because the tool is not there, so that's how my baptism in supply chain happened, because I lived in factories for 3 shifts. I have done many of those activities hands on, so for me then the journey was absolutely easy because I can quickly resonate. Even if I see a GR screen in SAP, I know the actual physical goods receipt that I have done in my shop floor. So that's how it is. It was a natural, so to say, natural journey for a mechanical engineer to get into supply chain.
So can you talk about highs and lows in your SCM journey or in your AI project journey?
Yes, I will, maybe chronologically go back, right? So I'll talk about the lows in my AI journey. So when I was given this charter of running, setting up this AI center of excellence, we, in fact, I learned some of the, harsh realities in a very brutal way. For example, lack of process discipline. How can it mess up projects? Remember I spoke to you about the pause and the pursue criteria that you need to have when you are running an AI project, right? Extremely important. I have, struggled. I have struggled to when to really pause a project. These things I have learned in a very, in a very bitter way. Just pursuing them because of the, eternal optimism that we will eventually achieve the accuracy that the customer or the business is looking for, right? That's not going to happen if your data is not there today. This is one, lack of process discipline is something, which I learned in a very, very harsh way. That's a low. But today now, when I look back, it is actually a high because, otherwise I wouldn't have come up with this framework of an AI funnel itself. This is something I invented, right? The AI funnel, an intuition from sales funnel, the WBS structure that I have come up with. These are a few things which I came up after, making these mistakes, and really, learning in a harsh way that you need to have a disciplined approach to run your AI projects. The second is people competency, right? Remember, I spoke to you about modelers versus data scientists. I learned it in a very harsh way, where by not managing the expectations of a highly qualified team of researchers and data scientists, what happens is uh, they also suffer in the process, and as an organization lead I also suffer, right? Because the expectations are not aligned. They think that they will only be doing deep learning. They think that somebody will give them a comma separated file and then they will do modeling, right? When I tell them that you need to talk to business, because getting comma separated file, a CSV file, is the ultimate stage in an AI project. To get there you have to sweat a lot, you know talking to the business, understanding the data sources, linking them, integrating them, getting access to them, integrating them, transforming the data, cleaning the data. This is where 70% of the time is spent. But they thought they will only do modeling, right? Call few Python libraries and then they'll be happy. That's not reality. That was just taking 5% of the time. The remaining time is all about interaction. It's all about data munging. It's all about data transformation, which a data scientist thinks it's not their job. So I was not aligned, I didn't set that expectation with them. And this was one big mistake that I made, right, in my journey. So these are few, nuggets when I reflect back, these are few lows, which eventually made me a lot wiser today. So that's why I'm able to come and talk in a talk show confidently about these are the problems that you will encounter as a leader of AI, of an AI team, right? So probably it was a blessing in disguise. These are a few things which I really learned. And coming up with the framework of AI funnel, or coming up with a rigorous process discipline, and eventually, converting this discipline to a stage which is getting fairly closer to an IT project in terms of its execution excellence, right? These are some of the things, that I learned in the gym.
So I see that you are ready to write a book on
Very close to
AI projects. So you give a lot of advice to listeners. Apart from that, do you have any advice that they can make their career excel in AI career?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was like these participants who are with us today, right? About 5 to 6 years ago, when I had this itch. Oh, I have done ERP. I have been in shop floor, and I have done, some bit of SCM, because I was working in SAP. Uh, so given all this, then I looked at my core competencies. What are my core competencies, right? I am a great programmer. I have very solid communication skills, and I have a great passion for algorithms and mathematics. So all this, I then thought, oh, then I can actually pursue the field of data science much more comfortably, given these skills. So this helped me, this true analysis of, today a strategist would call it as a SWOT analysis, right? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? I did a SWOT of myself, way back in around 2016, beginning of 2016 or so. And then, the answer came that given my strengths, and given my experience in supply chain, I thought the next step in my career was to pursue some form of analytics in supply chain. It could be big data plus analytics, it could be AI plus big data, some combination. But I thought I have those strengths, and then I am ready to make that leap. So my humble suggestion would be do a SWOT analysis of your passion, your skills, and where you want to take your career to the next stage, right? Because everybody is saying that data science is the sexiest profession now. Don't just jump into it. Are you really ready for it? If you are, if you are not wired innately for mathematics, if you don't have passion for algorithms, if you don't have passion for math and statistics, then don't jump into it. Figure out areas like AI product management, or a supply chain expert who also can be who also understands data science, who can work with data scientists to generate AI projects, could be a great area for you. So figure out your passions, skills, and competencies, and then choose. You still have an opportunity to play in the AI journey, but choose a role. Don't jump because everybody is becoming a data scientist. You could be an AI product manager. You could be an AI program manager. You could be an AI competency manager like me. Choose based on your SWOT analysis and then pursue. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Gopalan. It was very, very valuable, I think, and we had very, very interesting talk. Our time is running out, almost ran out. So I'll hand it over to Nistush. If he has some questions from audience, he can ask. Nistush?
Right. So, yeah. So, I think an absolutely amazing session. More than anything else, it was probably the most informative session that we have ever had an SCM talk show. A lot of new terminologies, a lot of new concepts coming in. So I'm sure people would have questions there. We have one question from Mr. Sayed. So you can unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can type it in your chat box.
Thank you, Gopalan sir. I'm compelled to thank you for such an informative session. I've being a supply chain certified CSCP and also working in analytics, I can relate most of the things. Thank you for this informative session. My question is we are embarking on the journey of digital transformation. This is a fancy terms. This our management is very keen to see. But the problem is we need to find the right platform. We implemented SAP, now going ahead with IBP, and also parallelly we are doing digital transformation. So would you kindly help, like which set of tools will help to implement AI efficiently? Because we do not have that much liberty to do trial and error. Uh, management is not that much have budget to do trial and error.
Okay, so this data is available. Is it in a data lake, or is it still available only in the ERP systems? Are you only having the ERP systems, or do you have data sources which are outside the ERP systems also?
We just have ERP system presently. We are now implementing IoT, attaching sensors to machineries. So we are in the process of building data lakes.
Awesome. Okay. So some form of data lake, if it is there, then you can do cross-domain insights, right? Impact of certain supply chain decisions on finance, on on any other, if you want to do cross-domain insights, a data lake will be good. Else you'll have to, integrate it in your AI application, right? Coming to talk about platform, the second question I had was, have you heard about the predictive analytics library that SAP has come up with? They also call it as the PAL, HANA PAL, or something close to that.
Yes.
Do you have that in your implementation?
Presently, we do not have license for that. It comes up with enterprise license. Presently, we have standard license.
I see. Okay. So I would give some low investment proposals, right? Because obviously, I remember my sutra also. I was saying that start small, make low investment. Ensure that you, with the small investment, try to see whether you can make some big impact for your organization, right? So I would say if you can access your data lake, and if your data is not what to say IP sensitive, that means your company, if they are okay to run some of your compute in a cloud, I would say start with some small subscription in one of the hyperscalers. It could be GCP or Amazon AWS, or it could be Azure. Somewhere, try to see where you can do some small experimentation, because they offer a lot of these AI services at a small subscription rate, right? You can probably do for a month or so to do some small experimentation and try it out. This is one option. Other is, if you still, are not very comfortable, you don't want to move your data to cloud, and you don't want to do, you don't want to expose your data in cloud, you can do with very, very small low cost implementations. Like, there are tools like Orange. I don't know whether you've heard about it. Orange is a very simple data mining tool where you can do predictions, classifications with the very small data sets, and it is a desktop application. Orange, you can search in the web. Orange for data mining is a very, in fact, I teach Orange for a lot of business analysts, whoever wants to get into AI, right? Because it's a very simple visual programming interface. So you could start with that, and then take some simple data set, take it into Excel itself. If you're not looking at some very sophisticated operations, you can start with some simple data sets, bring it in Excel, or connect those data sources from Orange, and then start experimenting using Orange itself, and then see whether your business is appreciating the value these outputs are bringing. These are few options I am giving you. I am not prescribing anything, but I'm giving you possibilities, right? So that you can look at these options and decide.
Thank you so much, sir.
Welcome.
Perfect. So do we have any other question from the audience? All right. So if not, we'll just move to, I'll just hand over to Ravi sir for any closing notes.
No, I was pretty happy with the session. Very, very interactive, very informative. I think a lot of value add. So I would like to thank Gopalan, and I would like to also thank the audience for attending. And as I said, this will be available as a recorded session. So I'm sure there's going to be very high hit rate. People would love to listen to this discussion. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a nice weekend.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Our next episode will be on 21st of May. Please follow us on LinkedIn to know about the speaker and these topic for the next session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.